Welcome back to the cryptowrld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin just confirmed a daily candle close above this important line of resistance, but we've also just run into this important area of resistance, seen a short-term rejection, but now we're retesting previous resistance to possibly flip it into new support as more liquidity is building just above the price of Bitcoin, which we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about that in just a moment, alongside Ethereum possibly repeating history in the short term, while the price of XRP is now forming a new price pattern that we need to pay attention to. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, just before taking a look at the Bitcoin and crypto charts today, taking a look at some Bitcoin news today, giving you a quick update on the Bitcoin ETFs, because on Thursday, we actually saw the best day of the week. We saw a net inflow of over $600 million coming into the Bitcoin ETFs just on Thursday. And so as we can see here, just over Wednesday and Thursday, in 2 trading days, over $1 billion of net inflows, more than making up for the net outflow that we saw on Tuesday. So overall this week, we have been more bullish than bearish for the Bitcoin ETFs. And of course, Friday, the stock market's closed for trading for 4th of July, which means we have no new inflows or outflows for Friday for the Bitcoin ETFs. And with that being said, taking a look at the Bitcoin charts today on the weekly time frame, the super trend indicator is still sitting in the green, indicating a larger bull market. But the weekly Bitcoin MACD is still showing basically a lack of bullish momentum. Technically, it's more bullish than bearish. We've not confirmed any bearish crossover or anything. So once again, slightly more bullish than bearish, but not showing a lot of momentum towards the upside, at least on these larger timeframes. And if we're taking a look at this weekly Bitcoin price chart, even if we possibly break out here in the price, technically we still have a possible bearish divergence to watch out for, while the weekly Bitcoin RSI is forming lower highs. And so overall, not a lot has changed on the weekly timeframes over the last one day. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day time frame, it's a similar situation. For now, we're moving closer towards a possible bullish crossover in the 3-day Bitcoin MACD, but at least for now, that's not yet actually confirmed, and also it's still showing a lack in bullish momentum. So honestly, it could be possible that we might drift a little bit further towards the upside, but not necessarily see a massive explosive move towards the upside like what we saw back here, for example, because at least as of right now, we're simply just lacking that bullish momentum. And if we're taking a look at this 3-day Bitcoin price chart here, as I said in my last video, we're possibly forming a massive cup and handle pattern, which is a bullish price pattern, but this only confirms and only activates a price target if we confirm a breakout, ideally with a 3-day candle close above approximately 110,000, basically around the all-time high. So essentially, once we break out towards all-time highs, then that will technically confirm this massive bullish price pattern. But we need to do that at some point in the next 1 or 2 weeks or so, because, for example, if we see a rejection and fail to break out here for a period of months, then basically we have no more cup and handle pattern even forming. But for now, that's still possibly forming, but not yet confirmed. So not a lot has changed over the last one day on this chart. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, what has happened over the last one day is we've just now confirmed another daily candle close above this descending line of resistance here, which was sitting at just under 109,000. And the latest daily candle close, as of recording this video, confirmed at just above 109,000, around 109.6K approximately. And so technically speaking, based on this price pattern alone, based on this chart alone, this now technically confirms the breakout and activates the price targets for this falling wedge pattern. Considering it's a bullish pattern breaking out the bullish direction, the first price target is simply the top of the wedge at approximately 112,000. But we need to keep in mind a couple of things. First of all, between the current price and these price targets towards the upside, we have points of resistance to watch out for where the price can potentially struggle at or reject from in the short term, which I'll cover in just a moment. But first, if we're taking a look at this line right here, this previous line of resistance, this should now become new support, sitting at around 108,500 approximately. But if we were to see a daily candle close back below this line right here, that will technically invalidate this breakout towards the upside. And so for the bulls out there, that is the line that we need to now hold above in order to remain bullish and head up towards these next price targets. And if we're taking a look at this daily Bitcoin price chart, I would expect a lot of support at around 103,000 and 98,000 if we were to actually get back to those levels, and a lot of resistance resistance in between roughly 110,000 to 112,000. And if we're taking a look at this 12-hour Bitcoin price chart, once again, as I've been saying over the last half a week or so, we're now finally starting to see a spike in volatility in the historical volatility indicator. And so basically what this means based on previous price action is that we're now on our next major move. And of course, so far this move is indeed pointing in the bullish direction. So far so good. And if we're taking a look at the 6-hour time frame, just over the last 1 to 2 days, we confirmed a breakout above this area of resistance here, which previously acted as significant resistance in the short term in between around 108.5k to 109,000. And like I said in my last video, we confirmed a breakout and then a slight retest and flipped that into new support. And then we continued towards the upside towards this next area of resistance in between around 110,000 to around 110.5k. And then as we can see here in the price of Bitcoin, just in the short term over the last 1 day, once again, we perfectly rejected and started to struggle in that exact area of resistance that I've been warning about recently here on the channel. So once again, as I always say, even if we have certain price targets to pay attention to, we cannot ignore these points of resistance where the price can likely struggle at. But the good news, at least as I've recorded this video, at least so far, is that we're now retesting this previous area of resistance again. And so far, it is still acting as support, once again, in between around 108.5k to 109,000. So it's important for the price to hold above this area and actually bounce from this area and ultimately see another test of this area of resistance towards the upside. Of course, that'll be very bullish if we can ultimately break out towards the upside. But if we were to see a confirmed break back below around 108.5k, honestly, in that situation, we could likely see a drop back down towards roughly 106,000. In between around 105.5k to 106.5k, we have a major area of support down here. But once again, at least for now, I would be paying attention to around 108.5k to 109,000 as the short-term support. And then if we can break out above around 110 to 110.5k, in that situation, we'll likely continue towards roughly 112,000. And then around that all-time high level here, around 112,000, expect some resistance around there. And of course, that would be the first major price target completed for this falling wedge pattern. And if you want to know more about this falling wedge and other price targets and a potential trading strategy, then watch my last 1 to 2 videos here on the channel over the last few days. I've talked more about this price pattern in more detail and possible trading strategies and other price targets involved. And the good news, at least for now, based on the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, is that we still have a lot of liquidity building just above the price of Bitcoin at very close to 111,000, around 110.9k to 111,000. So once again, that is still a major price target, but be aware that we still have that area of resistance between the current price and that major price target at close to 111,000. And so those are the things that are affecting the price of Bitcoin in the immediate short term and the key levels to watch out for on the price chart, causing the price to struggle at certain levels. And of course, if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in the price of Bitcoin or any other crypto, you have to be set up ready to go on a crypto exchange. And personally, I'm taking a lot of my crypto trades over on BTNX, so I'll make sure to leave a link to BTNX below this video in the description and in the pinned comment. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this sign up page where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $45,000 in trading bonuses and also deposit bonuses. For example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your BTNX account. But that's only if you use the link below this video to make your BTNX account, start trading on that account. And in case you're wondering, BTNX is a no KYC exchange, which means you can access it from basically any country in the world without needing any KYC. But as always, check your local regulations when it comes to trading crypto. And for whatever reason, if you don't want BTNX as an exchange, there's also 2bit as another option out there, another exchange that I also trade on. So I'll also make sure to leave a link to 2bit below this video. And if you use that link, it'll take you to this page right here where you can claim some massive trading bonuses, like for example, up to $50,000 in trading bonuses you can claim using the link below this video, and also a $30 sign up bonus and a 20% deposit rebate up to a max of 200 USDT. So for example, if you deposit just $1,000, you get a $200 bonus into your 2bit accounts, but once again, only if you use that link. So if you're going to be trading crypto anyway, or if you're preparing to take the next trading opportunity, you might as well get set up ready to go using the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim these massive bonuses. And in case you're wondering, 2bit is also a no KYC exchange. But with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum on the daily time frame, and currently Ethereum is still trading in this massive sideways price range And of course, over the last couple of days, we recently retested this crucial area of support, still sitting in between around 2380 to 2.4k. So continue to expect a lot of support in that region. And based on previous resistance that we just broke out above, I'd now expect support based on this previous level of resistance flipping into new support at approximately 2.5k. So if we see a little bit more of a short-term pullback, expect some support at roughly 2.5k. And as for resistance, we have significant resistance in between around 2.7k to 2.8k. And so overall on the daily time frame, not a lot has changed over the last one day other than just that recent breakout above 2.5k, which once again already just recently confirmed. But if we're taking a look at the shorter term, looking at the 2-hour Ethereum price chart, we've just now confirmed a new short-term bearish divergence. And so Ethereum is potentially repeating history because as we could see only just a few days ago, we confirmed a short-term bearish divergence here on the 2-hour time frame with higher highs confirmed in the price in the candle closes and lower highs confirmed in the 2-hour Ethereum RSI. And we've just now confirmed basically the exact same thing. Once again, a bearish divergence, which tells us we're most likely going to see either a bit more of a short-term pullback as a very likely scenario, or at best, potentially a bit of choppy sideways price action over the next one day or so. But obviously, I'd not be expecting this bearish divergence to play out over many weeks or months because it's only on the 2-hour time frame. So maybe just over the next day, maybe a couple of days at most, this could continue to play out. But overall, once again, it's just talking about the short-term movement. So expect a bit of weakness in the immediate short term, but overall, while we're still in this massive sideways price range, obviously we're still looking somewhat neutral, bouncing around in between roughly 2.4k to 2.8k. And as always, pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing because, for example, if Bitcoin breaks back below this area or breaks out above this area, either way, that can affect Ethereum in the short to midterm and a lot of the other altcoins. And if we're taking a look at the price of Solana on the daily time frame, and right now Solana is still basically trading in a sideways price range in between roughly 143 to 167 approximately. So first of all, we have a lot of support in between around 143 to 146, which we recently bounced from, as we could see. And we do have a bit of short-term resistance at roughly 155 and more resistance at close towards around 158, and of course major resistance at around 167. And in the immediate short term, talking about the next few days or possibly over the next week, we're looking slightly more bullish than bearish, but once again, we're still lacking bullish momentum. We don't really have a lot of momentum pointing towards the upside, so we may end up seeing just a continued little bullish relief like this, but not necessarily a massive movement straight towards the upside like what we saw previously. And if we're zooming further into the short term, looking at the 8-hour time frame, we're possibly forming a new price pattern. And of course, this possible new pattern is indeed an inverse head and shoulders pattern because we already have a left shoulder ahead and right now possibly forming the right shoulder. But all we need to see in order to actually confirm this price pattern and confirm a bullish price target is simply see a continued bullish move up towards this neckline at roughly around 157 to 158, and then confirm a breakout with candle closes ideally above 158 in order to actually confirm the right shoulder, confirm the pattern, and set up a bullish price target. And so obviously, as of right now, this pattern is not currently confirmed. It is not in play. But if we do ultimately confirm this by seeing a confirmed breakout once again above that neckline, then that will set up this bullish price target. If we're taking a look at this measured move, that would be sitting at around $194 to $195 approximately. And so if we're measuring from the point of the breakout to that price target, that's roughly around a 22 to 23% move towards the upside with no leverage, or for example, a 10x leverage long position. Just in that example, it'll be well over a 200% profit in that example. Once again, not financial advice. That's just pointing out a possible trading opportunity, but once again, only if it confirms. And so for now, obviously, this is something to pay attention to, but nothing to act on because it's not confirmed. And even if it does confirm, of course, we're still lacking bullish momentum. So don't expect the price to just go straight towards that price target in a straight line. And obviously, we have points of resistance to watch out for along the way. And overall, as I always say, pay attention to what Bitcoin is doing, because if Bitcoin struggles in the shorter term, that could likely affect the price of Solana and other crypto assets. And with that being said, taking a look at XRP on the 12-hour time frame, XRP is back in this sideways price range right here, that basically the top half of this much larger sideways price range, which is really in between around $2.05 to $2.35 approximately. And so first of all, we have some major support in between around $2.05 to $2.10, acting as significant support, and major resistance in between roughly $2.31 to $2.35 approximately. And if we're looking at where the price just rejected from in the short term, we rejected from pretty much exactly around $2.31 to $2.32. So pretty much right on the cent, exactly at the level that I've been warning about over the last few days. And so once again, even if we see a bit of a pump in the short term, we cannot ignore these points of resistance, which will likely cause rejections or cause the price to struggle in these areas. So of course, that's still playing out as I've been talking about. We're still in the larger sideways price range here, but zooming further into the short term, looking at the 8-hour time frame, we're possibly forming a new price pattern, which is a rising wedge. This is the opposite of a falling wedge. Once again, as I said earlier in the video for Bitcoin, a falling wedge is a bullish price pattern typically, and a rising wedge is typically a bearish price pattern, because roughly around 2 times out of 3, a rising wedge breaks to the downside, and about a third of the time it breaks out towards the upside. So it's not impossible to see a bullish breakout from a bearish price pattern. It's just that's simply the less likely scenario, statistically speaking. But if we're looking at the support and resistance for this price pattern, first of all, this line of support is sitting at around $2.21 approximately, and this line of resistance is sitting at around $2.29. And if we were to see a confirmed break to the downside below this line of support, with candle closes below that line of support, and especially if we were to flip that into new resistance by seeing some sort of retest like this, in that situation, the major price target to pay attention to would be the bottom of the wedge, sitting at roughly around $2. But between the current price and that major price target at around $2, obviously we have other points of support along the way. For example, I would expect a bit of support at roughly $2.17 and also at around $2.08. And of course, we have some major support in between $2.05 to $2.10. And so just like how resistance can prevent the price sometimes from going higher, of course, support levels can sometimes prevent the price from going lower. So keep that in mind. It is possible we could bounce at some of these support levels before actually hitting that price target. And remember, that $2 price target would only even come into play once we actually confirm a break with candle closes below this line of support. And if we're taking a look at the price of Chainlink on the 12-hour time frame, it's a similar situation for Chainlink. Overall, of course, over the last few days, we've been looking slightly more bullish than bearish, forming some very slight higher highs, as we could see, but still lacking bullish momentum. Once again, even if we see a little bit more of a bullish relief, don't necessarily expect significant momentum towards the upside, as I've been saying this entire time. And so the price is still somewhat just chopping around sideways, but with a very, very slight bullish bias. Overall, that is still the situation. And when it comes to support, if we continue a bit more of a pullback here, expect significant support in between around $12.60 to $12.80. And we're still finding some resistance at roughly around $13.60 to $13.80. Obviously, over the last one day, we just briefly crossed above $13.80, but we're still struggling around there. And of course, I'd expect more resistance at around $14.20 to $14.40, give or take, and major resistance in between around $15.30 to $15.50 if we can actually get there. And potentially one of the reasons as to why we're seeing this slight pullback in the short term just recently is due to the fact that we've just now confirmed a new bearish divergence on the 4-hour Chainlink price chart. And of course, I talked about this in my last video just yesterday, because the price was still forming higher highs while the RSI was still forming lower highs. But just over the last one day, not only have we confirmed the higher high in place in the price in the candle closes, we've now actually confirmed the lower highs in place in the 4-hour Chainlink RSI. And so once again, this is now a new bearish divergence that is just now confirmed, which means we're most likely going to see either a little bit more of a pullback like this, or at best some choppy sideways price action as the most likely outcomes, the most common outcomes from a bearish divergence. And considering this is on the 4-hour time frame, it will most likely play out over a period of days, not necessarily many weeks or months, maybe up to 1 week. Sometimes a bearish divergence can play out up to around a week if we're talking about the 4-hour time frame, but usually just a couple of days or so. It usually plays out for that sort of time period. And as for support to watch out for along the way towards the downside, I would expect some support based on previous resistance here, flipping into new support, sitting at roughly $13.40. So we're pretty much testing that that level as of recording this video. But if we break below this level here, then honestly, it is quite likely we could retrace back down towards these lows. And then as we can see, we will likely find a lot of support around these lows at roughly around 1280. But as always, keep an eye on what Bitcoin is doing, because for example, if Bitcoin breaks below this area of support, then that can heavily influence a lot of these altcoins, at least in the short term. And once again, if you want to get set up ready to go to take these trading opportunities in the price of any crypto, get set up ready to go using the links below this video to those exchanges if you want to claim those massive bonuses that are only available using those links. And if you want to actually know how you can trade crypto, no matter what the price is doing, whether we're bullish, bearish, or chopping around sideways, then make sure to watch these videos popping up right here on your screen. The video in the top left shows you how you can profit from bullish or bearish price action using long positions or short positions, and the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.